Freddie Mercury died in November 1991, and the most recognisable voice in rock left behind a microphone that nobody was willing to stand at. Not for months, not for years. 13 of them, in fact, before anyone took that position and called themselves the singer in Queen. In between, some of the greatest vocalists alive stepped up to these songs for one night, or one recording, or one strange season nobody quite knew what to call. Most of them passed the test they were given. Almost none of them wanted the job. This is the story of every singer who tried and why only one stayed. Brian May and Roger Taylor were consistent from the beginning. Freddie was not replaceable, and they had no intention of pretending otherwise. There would be no auditions, no search, no announcement of a new frontman.
We're not trying to recreate our dear Freddie. So if people do think that, I have no patience with them. Please don't come. But if you want to just enjoy our music done really well, please do come.
John Deacon went further than either of them. He stepped away from the band altogether in the late 1990s and has not performed with them since, so the microphone stayed empty, and that silence is the thing you have to understand before any of the rest of this makes sense. It shaped how every singer who came near this catalogue was heard. They were not filling a vacancy. There was no vacancy. They were stepping into a space the band itself had described as unfillable, in front of an audience that had already made up its mind about what that space meant. Every voice that followed was measured against an absence. The first real attempt came 5 months after Freddie died, Wembley Stadium, April 1992, 72,000 people in the ground, and a global broadcast on top of it. And a running order that explains the problem better than any interview ever has. 18 songs. 18 of the biggest voices in music, and almost nobody was asked to sing more than one. James Hetfield took Stone Cold Crazy, and it worked, because that song was always closer to metal than anyone gives Queen credit for. Seal took Who Wants to Live Forever and turned it into something enormous and grieving. Two singers, two songs, and the distance between them is the entire difficulty in one gap. This is a catalogue that runs from thrash to cathedral, and there has never been a single voice built to cover all of it. Robert Plant sang Innuendo and Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and by most accounts he was not happy with how it went. His performance was reportedly left off the original home video release of the concert. Consider what that means. One of the defining rock voices of the 20th century. On a stage he had every right to be standing on, and the material did not sit where he needed it to sit. Then came Bohemian Rhapsody, Elton John, and Axl Rose. It took two men to perform a song Freddie had sung on his own. And at the end of the night, We Are the Champions, sung by Liza Minnelli, with every performer in the building lined up behind her. They could not close the concert with one person at that microphone. There was one exception. George Michael sang 3 times that night. He sang 39, a Brian May composition, a folk-shaped oddity tucked into the far corner of the catalogue, and he sang it plainly, without decoration. He sang These Are the Days of Our Lives alongside Lisa Stansfield, and then he sang Somebody to...
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. That I'm in the recording booth with Roger and Brian from the band, and we re-recorded We Are the Champions.
It has been reported that conversations followed about something more permanent, and that he declined. The reasoning attributed to him is worth sitting with, because it is the same reasoning that runs underneath this entire story.
They asked me to do it, and so even though I'm very confident here on the microphone, I have suffered with incredibly low self-esteem, and I just thought I'd save them the audacity of me even trying to step on a stage and be in the same echelon as Freddie Mercury, because he to me is angelic, he's godlike, and it was just too scary.
Being compared to Freddie Mercury every single night is not a career, it is a sentence. The offers were there, the wait was what people turned down. Then, in 2004, somebody finally said yes. Paul Rodgers had fronted Free and Bad Company. He was a genuine heavyweight with a blues rock voice, gravel and warmth, nothing theatrical about it. For 5 years, he toured the world with Brian May and Roger Taylor and made In 2011, a church-trained singer from Canada named Marc Martel uploaded an audition video for the Queen Extravaganza project. It travelled around the world in days. The resemblance was genuinely disorientating, not an impression, but something closer to a coincidence of anatomy. He later sang on the Bohemian Rhapsody film soundtrack, his voice blended with Freddie's own. And that is precisely the trap. The closer the resemblance, the more every single performance becomes a direct comparison. And a direct comparison is one the living singer can never win. Marc Martel's gift is accuracy. Accuracy is not the same thing as presence. Which brings us to Adam Lambert. He was 27 years old and a finalist on a television talent show, which by any reasonable measure made him the least qualified candidate anyone had considered. He had no rock pedigree. He had no relationship with the band. What he had was a voice with enough theatrical range to reach the material honestly, and something rarer than that. He never wanted the role. He has said it repeatedly, in almost the same words for well over a decade. He is the guest. Brian and Roger are the boss. He is not the new Freddie Mercury, and has never once allowed the suggestion to stand unchallenged. He does not imitate. He does not apologize. He performs these songs as himself, in front of audiences who arrive knowing exactly who is missing. That is the test. Not range, not resemblance, not credentials. The test was whether you could stand in that space without either impersonating the man who used to fill it or pretending he was never there. George Michael could have passed it and did not want to. Paul Rodgers understood it and could not reach the songs. Marc Martel had the voice and was trapped by it. Queen never needed a new Freddie Mercury. They needed somebody who could stand beside the absence and leave it exactly where it is. 17 years on, one man is still standing there.